In the year 1600, a small group of English businessmen formed a company called the East India Company. They had no army, no empire, and no plan to conquer lands. They came to India quietly, only to trade. They did not know that, in just a couple of centuries, this company would rule the richest country in the world. At that time, India was not poor. India was one of the wealthiest nations on earth. Spices, silk, cotton, jewels, and gold, everything Europe wanted was in India. Cities thrived with trade. Villages produced amazing crafts. Farmers grew food for millions. The Mughal Empire, under powerful rulers like Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb, controlled most of the land. Their palaces, forts, and mosques were symbols of power and wealth. Foreign travelers wrote that India was richer than all of Europe combined. The British arrived as traders, polite and seemingly harmless. They asked permission from Mughal emperors to set up trading posts in Surat, Madras, and Calcutta. At first, they were guests. They bought and sold goods, paying taxes to the local rulers. But the British were patient. They studied India's politics, wealth, and weaknesses. They observed the cracks in the empire and waited for the right moment. That moment came after Aurangzeb's death. The empire began to crumble from inside. Princes fought each other. Governors stopped listening to the emperor. Regional kingdoms became independent. Bengal became rich under its Nawab. The Marathas grew strong in the west. The Sikhs rose in the north. Hyderabad and Awadh acted like separate countries. India was divided, and when a nation is divided, outsiders find it easy to enter. The British didn't attack India directly. Instead, they used a clever method. They supported one king against another, promised help, and then took control of the survivor. This strategy is now called divide and rule. They played rulers against each other, slowly increasing their influence. The first major turning point came in 1757 with the Battle of Plassey. The Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-Dowlah, had power and wealth. Bengal was the richest region in India. The British wanted it badly. Instead of fighting fairly, they bribed Mir Jafar, the general of the Nawab. When the battle began, Mir Jafar's army betrayed Siraj-Dowlah. Without much resistance, Bengal fell. Money and resources now flowed to the British. The East India Company was no longer just a trading firm. It was becoming a ruler. With Bengal under their control, the British expanded their army using Indian soldiers called sepoys, led by British officers. Mysore resisted under Tipu Sultan, but was defeated. The Marathas, after years of war, were conquered. The Sikh Empire also fell. One kingdom after another surrendered or was defeated. The Mughal emperor remained in Delhi but had no real power. He was only a figurehead. The British didn't just rule India with armies. They changed its economy. Indian artisans and weavers lost their jobs because raw materials were sent to Britain. Finished goods were made in British factories and sold back to India at high prices. Villages became poor. Millions of people suffered while Britain became richer. Roads, railways, and ports were built not for Indians but to transport wealth out of India. India's wealth flowed to Britain like a river, and India's industries slowly died. The anger of the people grew, and in 1857 it erupted into the First War of Independence. Soldiers, called sepoys, rebelled against the British. They refused orders, protested against unfair treatment, and raised the Mughal emperor as their symbolic leader. Hindus and Muslims fought together for the first time in years. Cities revolted, armies clashed, and hope seemed alive. But unity was weak. Some regions did not support the revolt. Planning was poor, and the British had better weapons and strategy. The revolt was crushed brutally. Villages were burned, leaders were executed, and families destroyed. The dream of freedom was temporarily lost. After this revolt, the British made their final move. The Mughal emperor was arrested and exiled. The Mughal dynasty ended forever. The East India Company was removed. Britain took direct control. Beginning the era of the British Raj, India became officially a colony. For the next 90 years, the country was ruled by the British Crown. Trains, roads, schools, and industries were built not for India's growth but to control its people and resources. British power expanded not because of force alone but because of planning, manipulation, and exploiting division among Indians. The truth is, the British did not conquer India in one day. They did it step by step, quietly and patiently. They took advantage of disunity, betrayals, weak leadership, and greed. Indian kings focused on their own power instead of thinking about the whole country. Wealth, resources, and labor were used to strengthen Britain while India's prosperity declined. History teaches a lesson. No empire falls in one night, and no nation is conquered from outside until it is weakened from within. The fall of the Mughal Empire and the rise of British rule is proof of this truth. The British came as friends, traders, and partners. But when the time came, they became rulers and took everything for themselves. India woke up to chains already on its hands. The story of the British takeover is not just about history. It is a warning for the future. A divided nation, distracted by internal conflicts, can be controlled by outsiders. Strength, unity, and awareness are the only ways to protect freedom. The British Empire's rise in India was a story of patience, strategy, and silent conquest. And the Mughal Empire's fall reminds us that wealth and power alone cannot save a nation without unity and vision. Remember this: history is not just a story. History is a mirror. It shows us how mistakes of the past can repeat. When people forget unity, they forget strength. When a nation ignores its own divisions, outsiders take control. The British did not just take India by force, they took it because the country had already opened the door for them. This is the story of the British Empire in India, a story of cunning, betrayal, patience, and strategy. A story of how an empire fell silently while the world watched, and a story that continues to teach lessons even today.